Welcome back. You're watching News Desk. I'm here for Business at 1. Thank you for staying with us. And before I start updating you on what we have lined up for you on the rundown, I'll point you to our financial standard, which is inside the Bold Standard newspaper today, Tuesday, and that's when we do the financial standard. And today, in today's newspaper, there is a pullout that says chaos over Trump's tariff as EPZ jobs, dip. And EPZ jobs are those jobs that people who work in the export processing zones, especially in the manufacturing sector. And so this even happened in 2023, and that is without the Trump 10% tariff that is bringing jitters. Another story in there is a story on banks lending dips by 240 billion shillings. And that is something that even the CBK tried to protect the Kenyan borrower, but still, as much as they're trying to protect us, I think loans are still just too costly for the Kenyan mwananchi. Check out our financial standard today, and a couple of more stories in there that I'll point you to later on. But we start in the National Assembly's Trade Committee, which has summoned the head of Kenya Bureau of Standards, Esther Ngari, over a 420 million scandal. Ngari failed to appear before the committee to answer the allegations of financial impropriety at the agency. The allegations stem from whistleblower letter authorized by section of the staff, pointing to financial irregularities, illegal hiring, and even importing contaminated rice. Committee Chair Honorable Bernard Shinali said that KEBS boss must face the committee to explain these serious issues. The committee has resolved to...
This committee will not operate in a manner where we are playing with a mandate bestowed against this committee.
It then begs the question whether the Kenyan population is actually safe with the kind of foods and products they are consuming. And it is imperative that the MD of Kenya Bureau of Standards, much as she requested for this date, then should have, at the very least, honored the summons.
So obviously now with this failure to appear, and noting the gravity of the accusations labeled against KEBS and the MD, Parliament will have to seek the approval of the Speaker and indeed issue the final summons.
The life of Kenyans are more important than protection from the minister or even from any other person part of this country. And we want to ask if that was the direction they would take, we'll also pronounce ourselves that whatever Kenyans are consuming is not safe.
Now we move on to technology, where Africa is seeking to bridge the digital divide. And that is a big problem in Africa. Though we do a lot of innovations, there's a huge digital divide where around 43%, only 43% have access to internet. Now the Communications Authority of Kenya is hosting the Regional Development Forum for Africa by International Telecommunication Union, which is the UN specialized agency for ICTs. The event is a multi-stakeholder forum that will see high-level dialogue among ITU member states, industry, academia, civil society, the UN society, as well as regional and international development agencies and organizations of the implementation of Africa regional proprieties and initiatives in the development of ICTs and telecommunication.
We last met under the umbrella of the development sector in the ICT sector in Kigali in 2022. And we were given a mandate to address 5 key areas. One is to make sure that we promote connectivity and achieve universal access, which is affordable and also meaningful.
Looking at the policies that are coming from the continent, looking at the conversation, the coming together of our leaders is a great thing that we want to continue to support, and we are looking forward to see more software being developed from the continent and utilized in the continent, to see more manufacturing to be done in the continent, especially in the smartphones and the electronics industry. We are looking forward to also enter into the semiconductor industry as a continent and play a role in supporting not only the African continent, but be part of the global community in addressing some of the global challenges.
And my friend, my brother gave me an example that if we were to be funded in East Africa, for example, by World Bank, would have a central consortium that will work in the entire East African countries, so that every country does not have to pay for consultancy selected by our funding agencies. Sometimes it's risky to say the things I'm saying, but we appreciate our partners from overseas. But it is good that we create that synergy that allows us to do what it is that we need to do in Africa.
Well, there's a tea variety that is called the BP1 tea that enjoys the largest market in Sudan. And right now there's a trade war between Kenya and Sudan over some of the allegations that were even said on air yesterday during the exclusive interview with the former deputy president. And now Sudan's recent ban on Kenyan tea export has triggered an uproar among tea farmers and factory directors in Embu County, with many warning the severe financial repercussions. The ban, particularly targeting Kenya BP1 tea grade, has left the sector in crisis as Sudan remains the largest market for this specific tea variety. Stakeholders in the tea industry are now calling for immediate government intervention to resolve what they describe as diplomatic crisis. This threatens both livelihoods of farmers and financial stability of the entire region.
What the farmers need is not only to see tea of avocado. What they need most is value for their work, value for their products, value for whatever they do. If it's expensive, if there are many options, we have a productive area. All tea areas are very productive, but it's not only tea. The tea farmers can also get money from many other sources.
Economy ya hapa watu wetu wanategemea hii biashara. Wale ambao ni wenye manjani chai na wale ambao wanategemea hizo mashamba za manjani chai kufanya kazi. Kwa hivyo tungependa serikali ya Kenya iangazie mambo kuhusu soko ya manjani chai.
The Sudanese government imekataa kuchukua products za Kenya, moja wapo ikiwa majani chai, na hao watu ndio soko yetu kubwa ya BP1 au ndio wamekuwa kitununulia. Hii swala tunataka serikali ichukulie with a lot of seriousness, because if we are producing and we are not selling, then why should we produce?
Now, the government, in collaboration with the Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Coordination Authority, has today launched a transformative training program aimed at enhancing road safety and reducing carbon emissions across the Northern Corridor. Through the Green Freight Strategy 2030, it aims to reduce carbon emissions intensity by 10% by 2030 and zero emissions by 2050.
First of all, the strategy is focusing on two main areas: fuel efficiency and reduction of harmful materials in our air or in our atmosphere. And of course, reduction of carbon, we hope by 2030 we shall reduce by about 10%. But that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is laying a foundation.
We can, in road transport, reduce our emissions significantly. Road transport accounts for typically around 90% of all transport emissions, and it is possible using the right process steps and change within the organizations to reduce CO2 emissions in road transport by between 20 and 30%.
Now, 21 community groups in Wamba East Ward have benefited from a 4 million shilling Kishon grant to boost them in microfinance, in which they feature different activities to substitute the pastoral livelihood and lifestyle that left their livestock dead due to drought. The grant will boost kitchen gardening and improve sanitation in early childhood and eventually reduce malnutrition rate among children under 5 years, expectant and lactating mothers.
In launching the funds going to help our people, and I'm very happy. I know the support they are giving is going to be very important and helpful to the community. In fact, I have realized even there are groups which will be getting gala goats. I know that one will help. These are dry area.
Wakati mwingi tukiweka hata sukuma inakauka na tunabaki sukuma imekauka, wanyama hatuna, na inakuwa shida tu ndio tunayo. So we really thank Samburu Women Trust kwa sababu wametushika mkono tuendeleshe hii kazi yetu iwe ya manufaa sana na ambayo inakuwa ya kutegemewa. Kwa ajili tunaweka maji sasa shamba letu na itakuwa all year program.
They are supporting around a number of groups here, and as they have said, as they have testified here, they have actually done some steps in supporting government programs here. For example, the ECD, the fencing, the drums they are putting around there, the farming they are doing around. Actually, that's bring a very good image to our community.
Well, that story does it for Business at One. But still, about the financial standard and the chaos over the Trump 10% over Kenya, I think that's just one, because that's what will directly affect us in Kenya. But take an example of Switzerland, which has been slapped with 31%, and Mexico with 27%. We export a lot of coffee to Switzerland, and Switzerland in turn exports coffee to the United States. That might, because of the 31%, they might reduce the demand from Kenya and just maybe import from Brazil and the likes that really export much more. And for Mexico, who exports 80% of their avocado to the States, they might just turn and export it to where we export, which is the European Union, and that might affect our demand for avocado. So there's a trickle-down effect, even if it's not directly to us, from other countries. But that story does it for Business at One. Coming up next is Sports with Jeff Mogire.